Good evening, folks. Yeah, I can see folks there. There's more than one person. And good evening. Welcome to everybody. Yeah, excuse me. I do apologise now if I've got any mess on my beard. I'm not really a McDonald's person. I'm not a big fan of McDonald's. But Wednesday night is McDonald's night in the house. I always get my daughter something, and I usually don't bother. But tonight, I was quite hungry and I couldn't be arsed cooking. So I got one of these, it's called the Big Arch. Excuse me. Um, I'm assuming it's to do with the golden arches. That's what it's a thing of. Got to say, it's the first McDonald's I've had. I just got the burger on its own, didn't get anything else, and I actually struggled to finish it. It was massive. And I've got to say, it was really nice. Wasn't cheap. I mean, it was £7, £7 something, But then you go to Five Guys, whatever, and you'll pay over a tenner for a burger. But yeah, it's a lot, and I'm not going to make a. I wouldn't make what do you call it, a thing of it, because I'm not really a McDonald's fan. But I have to say that was bloody nice. When you go to see a folk group, the audience are the folk. When you go to yeah, Colin is our resident comedian. He's here all week. Yeah. So, yeah, it's Wimbledon apparently. I haven't watched any of that. I wouldn't normally pay that, Steve. To be honest, I didn't realise that's how much it was going to cost. But oh, we'll not get started in the price of everything. Everything's going up in price. Anyway, right. Yeah, tonight, I thought I would do a first. It's a double. I was going to say a double Whopper. I need to watch what I'm saying because I was at Burger King. I was at McDonald's. Yeah, it's going to be a double feature. um, yeah, I'm going to. Evening, Craig. I'm going to be. It's another sort of my top favorite. My favorite SID tunes by a SID musician. And then because there was somebody on a couple of weeks ago, can't remember who it was, and they they asked when I was going to do another Mamemeister, watch with Mamemeister, which we watch a TV program and we I talk over it and basically be annoying. So I thought I'll do two. Why not? Why not? So yeah. So before I start, what's this XP bollocks? I've no idea what you're on about. Absolutely no idea what you're talking about, Colin. Yeah, before I start, I'm going to be. What's. Oh, right, yeah, yeah, yeah. What's these little. What is going on here in the chat? I don't know what the hell that is. It's like little crowns or something. I don't know what that is. No idea. That's quite annoying. Top fans, apparently, it says. Can we turn that off? Can we turn that off? Reactions. No, you can't. Yeah, top fans. Apparently, Colin is my number one fan. Steve is number two and Craig's number three. That's what it says. Yeah, it's a little crown thing. Yep, Colin is in first place. You're my top fans. Fans, yeah, you love me. Yeah, what I was going to say tonight, I'm just going to be using Deep Sid, which is the website that I play. I use for kind of streaming the SID music. But I think the next one I do, I'm going to connect up my ultimate thing, which is there. There it's there. Uh, yeah, there it's there. Um, because because what I can do, I can connect it via HDMI to the little streaming capture card thing, and I've got the two SID chips in it, and it means that you're actually going to get to hear the SID music coming out of a proper C64. I know it's a sort of a new thing, but it's going to be using proper SID chips, so you're going to get the proper sound rather than relying on one of these websites. But to be fair, I think the website's pretty good anyway. So, right, I think we've got enough. We've got enough people we can get going. So tonight I'm going to pick. It's a guy called Neil Brennan. Now he did all the music for Melbourne House. Um, Hi Ego, how you doing? Yeah, he did all the music for Melbourne House. It's I I don't really put him in the same category as, say, I don't know, Martin Galway or Rob Hubbard or Ben Dalglish. These guys all did standalone SID tunes, whereas when I think of Neil Brennan, I think of him as doing music specifically for a game. But that's to take nothing away from his skill because I think some of the stuff that he's done is it's fantastic. It really, really is. Um, that's really, really annoying. Yeah, Ego Chip is apparently not one of my top fans, so I might have to ban you. Yeah, that's really irritating. I don't know if you can gold. Can you? You can't. No, it just says you can't turn it off. React. Hang on a second. I've turned off reactions, whatever that is. I know. Yeah, why? Why is it that we're all grown adults? We don't need shit like that. I don't know. Like I said, it's nothing to do with me. It's obviously a thing that that OBS is now using. View. No, I don't know. There's maybe somebody can Google it and figure out how to turn it off. Yeah, it's annoying. Yeah, Ego Chip's now my fifth top fan. There we go. Thought you'd want to know that. Right, let's get across to the deep SID thing. There we go. Hang on. There we go. There's me. I know. It's like that's why I can't be arsed with bloody modern games now. Honestly, I was fine. I mean, even the achievement. Hey, Steve, how you doing, mate? Uh, have I not had the red ring of death? I have had. Oh, without a shadow of a lie, I think I had four rings of death. And I hardly played my Xbox 360 compared to my mates. I hardly played it. And yeah, I got so sick and tired of getting red rings of death, and you couldn't do anything about it. They wouldn't swap it. That one there, God, I've had that for ages, years. Don't know how old it is. Hope you're doing well. Anyway, Steve. Anyway, yeah, what was I talking about? Right, we're going to let me move. Should I move myself up here? Red Ring of Death is it was a hardware failure that you used to get on the Xbox 360. Um, and the little Microsoft sort of logo thing when you connect what do you call it, a controller, it would light up one little quarter of the circle, and a red ring of death was where all of them lit up red, and that was to do with some major, I don't know what caused it. But yeah, I said it was at least, Steve said he had three, it was at least, it was easily three, it might even been four. Complete pain in the arse. Right. Anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move PC monitor. I'm going to move that over a wee bit like that. In fact, we could probably move it over there. There we go. And then I can be even more irritating. And I'm going to move myself up there. How's that? Right in the middle. Boof. Bish bash bosh. Right. Anyway, yeah, Neil Brennan. Yeah, like I said, he did all this stuff for Melbourne House. So I've not picked 10 because I don't think his games last particularly long. So in fact, let me just have a quick. Where did I put? There we go. Neil Brennan. I've got a folder here, which I want to. Come on. Now I don't. I'm not familiar with some of these, but we'll just play them. We'll just play them. So, right, let's have a look. Asterix and the Magic Cauldron, apparently. Uh, what was I called? Fighting Warrior. Interesting. Not all the games are actually there, so I'm just going to go through them, right? Well, tell you what, Aussie Games, let's try that, because I think he was Australian. Let's take it away. Now, I know you can't hear that, because I need to change it. Da-da-dum, bum, 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 bum. How's the volume? Right. Right, it looks like. How do you disable it, Steve? Or is it down to the individual to disable it? Right, this one here is 1 minute and 28, so I'll be quiet. Oh, wait a minute. That's not even. That's not even Neil Brennan, that one. Oh, it's Neil Brennan's player. Right. Right, wait a minute, that's quite annoying. Hang on a second. Right, did he do this one? Fantastic, well done, Steve. Third Dan. Awesome, mate. Awesome. You probably know, I sadly gave up Cook Soul. It was just, it was taking up too much of my time, and I was missing a lot of it. I just had so much other stuff going on in my life, and it was very difficult. I was falling further and further behind. It's now been actually over a year since I've been back. Well, I go back to it unlightly, if I'm being honest. I really enjoyed it, but I feel like I've forgotten everything, and I've got a lot of other new things and that I'm kind of getting stuck into, a lot of new hobbies and that as well. So, well done, Steve. I know exactly what it takes to get to that level. That's absolutely awesome, mate. Well done. Right. Anyway, Aussie games. Right. Fighting Warrior. Right. Wait a minute. I'm going to do something else here because I had a list of the SIDs opened up, but I just want to see. Right. If I do Melbourne House. Right, let's have a look. Right, music wasn't by him. That's interesting. It's got so Fighting Warrior wasn't actually by Neil Brennan. It's using his player. Right, okay, right. This is Asterix and the Magic Cauldron. Try clicking the bit at the top, the one with. Sorry, I'm not with you, Colin. Say that again. Try clicking the HEV bit at the top of the list. The one with 21 beside it. I'm not seeing what you're talking about. Top of the list. Hi Sandra, how you doing? Was it yourself, Sandra, that asked for a Watch from Mamemeister? I think it might have been actually. Well, you'll be delighted to know that we're going to be doing one. This is a double whammy this evening. You're going to have to sit through. Ah, right. Ah, fantastic. Right, good man. Thank you, Colin. Thank you very much, Squire. Right, excellent. Right, we're in business now, folks. Sorry for the bit of the hiccup there. Yeah, we're going to be listening to some tunes by Neil Brennan, this fine looking man up here. He did music for Melbourne House. So the first one we're going to listen to is Asterix and the Magic Cauldron. I don't think that's the main tune somehow. Yeah, I knew, excuse me, I knew that would be some people's reaction, Ego. If you were to ask people if you're into the C64 SID music and you were to ask people to write down the top 20 SID musicians, I would almost guarantee that he would not be included because he wasn't he wasn't as prolific as some of the big names, the Rob Hubbard, Martin Galway. And like I say, the music that he did, it's like, I don't know, it's like comparing, I don't know, John Williams doing like Star Wars against, I don't know, AC/DC. You're not really going to go on the radio and listen to John Williams. You're not going to go into your computer and listen to Neil Brennan stuff, but he made music that fitted perfectly in with the games. Now, there's not many. There's only 3 or 4 games that I'm really familiar with, and we'll come to these. So yeah, I mean, functional music, yeah, completely different. Like I says, just bear with me. Anyway, that was Asterix and the Magic Cauldron. I'm going to play them all because there's. I don't think they'll last particularly long. The next one, this came out in 1986. This is Bazooka Bill. I've never even heard of it. Right, we'll stop that one there. Yeah, like I says, Ego, I totally agree with you. His music, it's not. You're never going to walk around. I was going to say with your Walkman on. You're never going to upload his stuff onto. It's like the Jaws music. Da-dum, da-dum, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. You're never ever going to listen to that. But as a piece of music on a film, it fitted absolutely perfectly, and that's where I can see Neil Brennan. So anyway, right, we're not going to listen to any more than that one. The next one, Bedlam, again, it's not one I'm familiar with, but this is 1988, so this is a couple of years on. Let's take a listen. Some really nice kind of voices. It was a kind of springy sound. That's really unusual. Yeah, right. The next one is Dale has pointed out. This one's up. I didn't realise that. Yeah, this game, Bop and Rumble, has apparently got 23 tunes. We'll listen to a few of them. I would imagine they're all going to be pretty short. So again, this ain't a game that I'm familiar with, but let's take a listen. You'll notice it says there this game was also released under the names Street Hassle and Bad Street Brawler, not my finest hour, so even Neil himself wasn't massively keen on the tunes for this. Sounds like a remix. Let's move on. Same again, I think. They all sound the same. Yeah, let's stop that. They all seem extremely repetitive. Right, this next one, you need to know the. I know Sandra, you're saying you're not familiar with any Melbourne House games. I don't know. I'm not going to ask a lady her age. But yeah, if you were around in the sort of mid 80s, you would be aware of Melbourne House. They put out, what did they put out? Well, the best game, in my opinion, is Way of the Exploding Fist. They put out Fist 2. They put out, oh, what was that? Rock and Wrestle. They did a lot of games, but you can see them all down there. The Hobbit, yeah, that was an early game. Muggs's Revenge, that was on the Spectrum. Fighting Warrior. Yeah, but yeah, it's the music that really sticks in my mind. So anyway, this next one, Castle of Terror, it did something that no other game has, or it did something that I would never have thought possible. It actually made me play an adventure game. It was a graphic adventure, a text adventure, but it had like a screenshot, and it did have some really kind of like basic animation. But what made me play it was, apart from it being based around you're trying to get Dracula, was the music. This just So if you imagine when you're listening to this music, imagine you're playing a horror game around Dracula. What's interesting about the game is apparently it's completely impossible to complete because there was one screen where you had to do something and it was broken. You physically could not do it, so the game was completely unbeatable. Don't mean it was the best game ever. I mean that you couldn't physically complete the game. But just when you're listening to this, just imagine a Dracula game. It's a horror game. Now it says here there's 8 tunes. They're not big. Um, right, okay. Atari 800's a great computer, by the way. I actually recently sold my Atari 800, the original one. Um, yes, please. Thank you. Ava's making tea. If anybody wants a cup of tea, let me know. I'll get her to put the kettle on. Yeah. Anyway, imagine Dracula, and yeah, let's go. How cool is that? I mean, seriously, that's cool. Spooky or what? Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I just think it's these are just they absolutely nail the subject matter. You know, you're playing a spooky game, you're playing a text adventure with graphics. You're trying to hunt down Dracula. Just I think that was some of the earliest music I ever heard, and I'm still impressed with it. Excuse me. Steve's asking, were there any Castlevania games on pre NES consoles? I'm I'm not too sure, Steve, if I'm being honest. Um, there's been a couple of games made fairly recently, in the last maybe 5 years on the C64. I can't remember what it's called. And it's kind of based on Castlevania. I don't know whether was there any Castlevania type games on the NES, not the NES, MSX. Might have been, I'm not too sure. Right, anyway, the next one, again, I'm just going to play it because there's not that many really. This is called Doc the Destroyer. No idea what this game's about. There's only one SID tune and it came out in 1987. Let's take a listen. Yeah, quite a short little one, but again, it's not like it's not a piece of music you put on the stereo to listen to. Um, but yeah, if you're playing that game, I think that would really add to the kind of ambience and atmosphere. Right, the next one is this is Fist 2, The Legend Continues. This was this was probably the most disappointing game in my experience. I loved Way of Exploding Fist so much, and when I heard that they were bringing out a sequel and it was going to be a sideways scrolling game and it was going to have all different levels and different places to go, palaces to visit, all that kind of stuff, I was so excited. And then when the game came out, it was crushingly disappointing. Yeah. So anyway, I'm not massively familiar with the tune. But anyway, yeah, this is Fist 2, The Legend Continues, and there's three SID tunes in this one, so we'll play through them all in their entirety. And this came out in 1986. Thank you very much. Cool. Thank you. Yeah, I need to show you something. Hang on. Webcam only. How cool is this mug? And Holly gave me that arcade archive. We're going to be going down. There's a group of us going down to the arcade archive and the cave, which is down. I'm going to say it's near Swindon. It's about a 40-minute drive from Swindon. It is like the most phenomenal museum dedicated to games and hardware and computers. It's just absolutely brilliant. So we're all going. There's a few of us going down there. Can't remember what date it is. I think it's like the 20th of September, something like that. If you're interested, go to the Mamemeister Discord. If somebody could put a link to the Mamemeister Discord channel, that'd be great. And yeah, you'll get all the details in there. But anyway, yeah, right. What was I saying? Sandra's asking my question. Excuse me, do you play new games too? I have a Switch 2 and use that. I'm playing Hogwarts Legacy on it and liking it a lot. I do play new games, Sandra. Not many. I mean, I do have. What have I got? I mean, the last console I bought was going to be the Xbox 360. Shut up. The Xbox Series X. What have I been playing in that? I tend to play older games that I'm familiar with. It's like when I'm watching a film, I tend to put in a film that I've seen because I know I like it. So I've been playing stuff like, oh, what the hell do you call it? Oh man, I've completely forgot the name of it. Begins with D, not Deliverance. Disil Dishonored. Yeah, Dishonored 1 and 2. The annoying thing is, both by Bethesda software, Dishonored 1 actually had a bug in it, which meant when you got attacked, the screen went all kind of red, and you couldn't get rid of it. That was a shame. But I've got a Switch. I do play. I think personally, the Switch to me is my favourite kind of modern console. It's got some fantastic games. My daughter and I play. We play like Mario Kart and other kind of linked up games, like two-player games. Um, my daughter's got a Switch too. We bought that. We actually stood outside Smith's store till midnight to get it. She's only got one game for it so far, which is Mario Kart, which we've been playing, which is really, really good. Interesting anecdote, Hogwarts Legacy, I'm guessing, is to do with Harry Potter. I actually worked with J.K. Rowling's husband, Neil. I used to share an office with him, just him and I shared an office. I used to play squash with him. He used to beat me. He was about, I don't know, 5, 6 years younger than me. So there you go. Yeah, she's still married to him. Apparently I don't know what he does. I think he's a doctor or something, but must do that for pocket money. So anyway, right, let's get back on with the subject in hand, PC screen. Right, that was the Fist 2. They brought out, I think this came out, yeah, so Fist 2 came out in 1986. Fist Plus came out, I'm not 100% sure what that was. I think it was a budget game by Mastertronic. and I think it had something to do with Way of the Exploding Fist. I need to actually check it out. But this is the tune to that. I'd never heard of this one. Let's take a wee listen. Colin, you're now moderator, by the way. Hi, Dale. That's alright, Colin's going to do it, Dale. We're wanting a link to the Discord channel, that's all, mate. Yeah, that's alright. Nothing to write home about. Right, the next one came out in 1984, and it's called Grand Larceny. I can't even say it, Larceny. Yeah, Grand Larceny. So this is a really early game. I think this might be one of his first games, actually. Let's take a listen. Sounds a bit like Spy Hunter. Yeah, you can tell that was his first one. Cheers, Dale. Right, the next one, this interesting, The Hobbit. Now I think, well, The Hobbit came out really early on in the 64's life. I mean, I always think of it as a what do you call it? A Spectrum game. It was a text adventure, but I think they re-released it a couple of years later. So they must have, yeah, added some SID music to it. So there's 6 pieces of music. Let's take a wee listen. Even on the Koza. you can tell that he used some of these voices in, what do you call it, Castle Terror. That kind of deep bass synth, plus a little hi-hat thing as well. Definitely recognise them. Right, interestingly, that is the same piece they used in Fist 2, so I'm going to jump. Apparently, OBS have decided to give rate my top fans. So if I click on that just now, my top fans in the stream at the moment is Sandra, Colin Thompson, Del Boy, Craig, Jiu-Jitsu Gamer, and Lacosa is my 6th top fan. Like bollocks. Yeah, you can. Apparently, I can't turn them off, but apparently you can. Yeah, we did notice that appeared today. Yeah, like I says earlier on, we're not 14-year-old kids. Right, okay, I've kind of had enough of that. That was obviously yeah, based on Verdi, an opera, which Lacosa's familiar with. I'm not. Um, it's an early SID tune, it's not the greatest. Right, this next one, Inspector Gadget demo, 1987. Let's listen. You've got to go into privacy page in your YouTube settings apparently. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, apparently it says you've got to go into privacy settings in YouTube. I have no idea. No idea at all. Anyway, right, that was Inspector Gadget. Right, the next one is Junior Pac-Man. 14 tunes, we'll listen to them. I think they're all going to last 5 seconds or so. Yeah, you can imagine that in a Pac-Man game. Right, yeah, they're all the same. Right, next one is Judge Dredd. Came out in 1986. Yeah, I'm sure younger YouTubers would lap it up. It'll encourage just to people to just constantly make comments to get to number one. Yeah, it's a lot of shite. Just means that people are just going to keep typing a single letter, and that'll soon make them number one. But yeah, it's a lot of bollocks. Right, that was Judge Dredd. As I've said before, don't a few people have commented saying, "Oh, he's nowhere near as good as the sort of big hitters," and absolutely true. But I don't. Neil Brennan made short pieces of music which fitted perfectly with the game. He didn't make big masterpieces like Monty on the Run or not Paradroid, Parallax, Whizball, anything like that. Most of his tunes are really short little snippets, which again, I think they fit the game perfectly. So he's a talented guy. Like he didn't do the big masterpieces that like Hubbard and Co did. Right, this next one, Muggsy's Revenge. Again, another text adventure by who was that by? Yeah, by I think every game that he did was by Melbourne House. So let's take a wee listen. Now Muggsy was a gangster type game, so it fits it really well. Now Neil Brennan says at the top, I'm pretty blurry in this one. I think song 1 is mine, but I don't remember doing songs 2 or 3. It's possible that someone took over from me when I left Melbourne House and added the last 2 songs. So this one and the next one might not actually be his. I remember that tune, don't know how. Yeah, right. Next one. This was kind of touted as the sequel to Way of Exploding Fist, and I got quite excited about it, thinking, oh, it's going to be really good. It's based on wrestling. Now, I would never play a wrestling game. I think that was probably put my teeth back in. I think that was probably the last ever wrestling game that I ever played, which came out in 1985. So yeah, I've not played a wrestling game for about 40 years. Um, yeah, it was quite fast and kind of frantic. So yeah, the tune does go pretty well with the game. I don't recommend you play the game, but anyway, take a listen. What filter stuff going on there? I think you might be right. Yeah, I certainly wouldn't. I certainly wouldn't be buying shares in Neil Brennan's CDs anytime soon. Right. Anyway, right. Rock and Wrestle. Right. The next one is this came out in What's interesting is he said in Muggs's Revenge, which came out in 1986, that he reckons that the last two weren't done with him because he'd left. But then he's apparently done Samurai Warrior in 1988. So I don't know. Anyway, let's take a listen. See, he's great at doing these really atmospheric little kind of ditties that are perfect for games. okay, that's enough of that. Yeah, is that Samurai Warrior? Is that the one you play as a rabbit? I'm sure Zap magazine gave it quite a decent review. Don't think I've ever actually played it. Right, this next one again. To be fair to Neil Brennan, most of a lot of what do you call it, Melbourne House's games were text adventures. So yeah, he didn't have a lot of action to kind of get his teeth into. And to be fair, the best game music is not even featured yet. You'll get to listen to that shortly. Right, this next one, yeah, Sherlock, presumably based on Sherlock Holmes. There's three tunes. Let's take a listen. This came out in 1984. According to Neil Brennan, song number 2 is his best piano piece that he wrote for Melbourne House, and he says he still plays it for personal enjoyment. So, looking forward to listening to this next one. Yeah, evening I take the fifth. How are you? Let's have a look. The website we're using, hopefully I can, yeah, there we go. It's called Deep Sid Cordon, and yeah, it's got every single Sid tune that you could possibly want to listen to. It's a really good website. I don't know how authentic it is as regards to playing the actual Sid music. I mean, we used to use it when myself, Lacosa, and Panther did the Sid shows. We used to use it. Although saying that, no, well, no, we did use it when we were recording it. But then Panther used to overlay the proper Sid music. So yeah, but no, it's unless you're an absolute purist, you're not going to really notice any difference. I certainly don't, but that's me. Right, that was Sherlock. Yeah, it was a bit kind of boring. 1984. Next one, right? We've only really got. Well, we're not going to bother with Super Pac-Man. This one's Starion. We'll listen to a couple, and then we'll get to the main event. Ride of the Valkyries. Ooh, that's quite low. Panther. What is the Panther? Sorry, Lucosa. Who did the Telstar SID? I was wanting to listen to that again. How you doing, Ox? Right. I think that's enough of that. Yeah. Quite an appropriate little tune because Starion is a sort of. I was going to say it's like a elite, but well, it's more a vector shoot 'em up. Right, we're not going to bother with Super Pac-Man. Right, the main event. The reason I picked Neil Brennan tonight is Way of the Exploding Fist. It was a groundbreaking game. When it came out, I think it got a. Did it get a Zap Sizzler? I think it was. I don't think it got a gold medal. Maybe it did. I don't know. Um, but yeah, it kind of showed us just what the C64 could actually do. It was an absolutely fantastic beat 'em up. I still prefer it to International Karate. I know everybody else says International Karate is a better game. It's way more technical, and it probably is. But I've just got a soft spot for Wave of Exploding Fist. But a big part of the appeal of that game was the music. You need to remember, if you don't know what Wave of Exploding Fist is, you need to go and have a look. It's a one-on-one karate game set somewhere in Japan, I would imagine. With the dojo in the background and the sort of the little Buddha guy sitting, and the music just absolutely it complements the game perfectly. So there's only 5 tunes that we're going to listen to. Anyway, enjoy. That was the noise you got when that was the noise you got when you're loading the game. Fantastic. Sorry, just calling. Someone has bought Commodore. Yeah, there's a YouTuber has him and a few other people have apparently bought Commodore, the company. Everybody seems to be getting really excited about it. I don't understand what the why. I don't get it. Because there's lots of really clever people making really good bits of hardware, but some people get really excited about having an official badge in it. It's an official Commodore product. No, it's not. Commodore died about 20 years ago. Uh, Someday is well, probably Sandra. I mean, that thing that I've just bought behind me. I don't know if you can see it. You can't really see it. No, you can't see it. Um, it's what was I going to say? Yeah, I'm sure that it's a new machine that's come out. And what will probably end up happening is they'll put a Commodore badge in it, and then they'll double the price, and everybody will go mental for it. But I'm not getting excited about it at all. It would be nice to see stuff getting released with the Commodore badge. I suppose, if I'm being honest, I was saddened like a lot of people when Commodore went bankrupt and then they got bought over by, was it ESCOM, I think it was, and then they got bought over by Tulip Computers, and then it was different companies owned it. Now, at least the people that actually own it are people who have got an interest in Commodore. But is it the same company? No. It's like if I bought Atari, does that mean that Atari's back? Not at all. It just means that I can put an Atari badge on something. But anyway, we'll see. We'll see. Right, anyway, tune number 2 from Way of Exploding Fist. Yeah, I did see. What's the C16? You're going to upset. You're going to upset Craig, Sandra. Yeah, a C16 isn't the sequel to the C5. You're going to make me feel really old if you ask what a C5 is. A C16 was the Commodore C16. It was a computer that came out from Commodore. They brought out the C16 and they brought out the Plus 4. The Plus 4 had two different. Did it have two different chips in it? Or no, I'm thinking of the Commodore 128. I can't remember exactly. Basically, they're both shite. The C16 was like the cheaper version, and it was awful. Although it does have one good game called Green Beret. You might want to go and check it out. It's actually worth playing. So anyway, right, yeah, interestingly, that screaming sample taken from the film Enter the Dragon in the scene where Bruce Lee fights O'Hara, with Lee knocking O'Hara to the ground over chairs. Right, let's play tune number 3. Yeah, absolute classic music. As I say, play the game, and that music just completely makes it. Yeah, if you're going to get the C16 emulator, download WinVice, and you get like the 128, you get the VIC-20, you get all the EXEs included. So yeah, you can play the C16. And the last one, right? I don't really know anything about this one. Zim Salabim. Again, I think it's another text adventure. 5 SID tunes came out in 1984. That's really low. I'll turn it up a wee bit. I can hardly hear that. Right, let's not bother. Right, Lacosa, what was the name of the who did the Telstar one? I know it's nothing to do with Neil Brennan. Who did the Telstar? Is it this one here? Saint Bob one, possibly? Not that, it's not that, it's not that. Is that the only Telstar? And there's an Andy one as well. Brian. In fact, there's a few. Not a clue. Alright, so did you just randomly find it? Right, okay. Right, fair enough. I thought Lacosa was going to know the name of it. Yeah. Right, I don't know. Right, okay, we can't find it. Right, anyway, right, listen, this is end of part one. I'm going to have a quick toilet break. Part two, we're going to watch a couple of old programs. I've already got them picked out. I'm going to watch episode two and episode one and three, I think it is. And it's called The Computer Chronicles from 1985. So if that sounds like your bag, then don't go away. I will be right back. I'm just off for a quick pee. Yeah. Oh, there we go. Yep, forgot to unmute myself. Yeah, then part two is going to be we're going to watch the Computer Chronicles. We're going to watch 2 episodes. Excuse me, and I'm going to be annoying and witty and just basically talk over it. Excuse me, these you can if you want to watch them uninterrupted, you can probably get them on YouTube somewhere. But if you want the annoying version, then you can stick with me. So let's take it away and video watch part one. Is it playing? It's not playing yet. Hang on, how do we get it playing? This is what I came for. You remind me, tis was. This is what they want. Why is it not playing? Right, let's try again. Hang on. Come on. Why is it not playing? There we go.
Focus, creators of visual programming tools for software development, is pleased to provide major funding for the Computer Chronicles, the story of this continuing evolution.
Micro focus.
Welcome to the Computer Chronicles. I'm Stuart Chaffee, and this is Gary Kildall, whom I'm trying to beat in the game of Pong. Pong is the granddaddy of all computer games, and that's the subject of our program today, computer games. And Gary, computer games, in fact, were important, weren't they, in getting the whole personal computer thing going?
Well, they certainly were a part of it. One of the unique aspects of a personal computer is that it often has bitmap color graphics, like the Apple II, for example. And that way you can do very dynamic things, games that you couldn't do, say, with a teletype style or scrolling display you would find in a larger computer system. This particular game, obviously, is a pretty old vintage, and they've gotten a lot more sophisticated since then, and we're going to see some of that today.
Indeed, we've got a very exciting show. We'll be meeting some of the superstars of computer game programming from Electronic Arts, from Atari, and from Activision. And while the idea of computers in games may be new, the idea of people playing games with machines is not really new.
Now, that was the first one.
That was legitimate. Before the first program was written to simulate a starry background or a speeding racer, Penny arcades offered simpler, more mechanical amusements, but with the same goals in mind: to challenge and entertain. If the locale was less exotic and the competition less ferocious, at least some of the game's interactions were similar. A player needed manual dexterity in competing for points or a reward, more tangible in some cases than in others. As a device for escaping daily routine, computer-generated graphics brought a level of fantasy that no mechanical game could ever approach. Instead of escaping from a schoolroom or an office, a player could leave the Earth or move to a different universe. Modern arcade computer games offer different kinds of challenges, from fast action games that demand even faster reactions to maze-type games where the player threads his way around obstacles, and war games where the object is to destroy or be destroyed. In one of the latest adventure games, animated images are stored on Laserdisc to be recalled sequentially, following the story's plot and according to the player's responses. If the player moves the control stick in the right direction, he is rewarded with a successful escape. But if the player makes a mistake, the program picks an alternative sequence of images, and the results can be extremely uncomfortable. Whether used to create unknown worlds or to enhance the reality of familiar worlds, computer games succeed in an unlikely domain, transforming pinpoints of light on a little screen into a believable realm, larger than life, and usually more exciting.
Steve Kitchen. I'm thinking of Gary Kitchen.
Our guests in the studio are Steve Kitchen, designer of an incredible new game, Space Shuttle, from Activision, and Chris Crawford, one of the top game designers with Atari. Gary?
Steve and Chris, you both build computer-based games. Do you call yourselves designers or programmers?
I call myself a designer because most of the sweat and blood I expend occurs in the design phase, not in the programming phase. I spend a great deal of time worrying about what my audience will experience in the game.
Where nobody gave a
Only
shit
towards
about
the
their
end of the project do I
haircuts,
actually get down to writing any code.
When you think about the design of the game, what are the elements of the game that make it interesting?
Well, that has to do a great deal with what I'm trying to accomplish.
I bet he's about 23.
I set a goal. I want a game to achieve a certain effect. I want to somehow communicate a message to my audience. That message then dictates the topic and the style of the game, the nature of the graphics, the feel. That's what the texture of the game that I'm trying to build into it. That's what I spend most of my time worrying about.
Chris, you're talking more like a writer rather than a computer programmer. Steve, is that how you see what you do?
That's basically what we are. We're writers. We're writing a book, a novel, creating a vicarious universe in this computer program. We have to model everything we want, put every small detail in. Very often, in my game, for instance, I had to do extensive research for a year and a half to understand my subject before I could distill the important aspects out and then put them into this cartridge.
Like a writer would.
Exactly like a writer would. When a writer writes a book, the book is a vicarious universe. You read it and become part of it. It's the same thing. When you play these games, these programs, you vicariously become part of the universe that the programmer puts into it.
Looks like it, Craig.
Okay, you've got Space Shuttle up here, and give us a demonstration of how this works.
Well, this is an automatic demo flight we're going to fly. This is a complete Space Shuttle mission from launch to landing. This is actually themed after the STS-2 flight back in November of 1981. We're starting off now at Cape Kennedy in the morning. The clouds are rolling by, the sun is coming up, and we're doing our countdown now. Now at T-minus 4 seconds, we're going to turn our main engines on. You're going to see the thrust indicators at the top of the screen there moving along.
800,
there we go. At T plus 3 seconds, the solid rocket boosters are going to turn on, and we're going to go through the clouds and off the pad. And there we go. Now, the aspect of the game here is to fly the space shuttle successfully into a 210 nautical mile orbit, doing all the control functions that an astronaut would really do, setting your yaw and your pitch, keeping on a trajectory line. At 26.2 nautical miles, the solid rocket boosters will jettison off. Now, this is a very important point of accuracy, is there's a yellow flash.
How serious that guy is.
There we go. This is something that wasn't noted until STS-1, when the first astronauts went up, that this actually happened. I had to find all of these details out about what you would experience if you were inside of the space shuttle and you were doing the flying, so that when you play this game, you feel like you've actually flown.
Steve, it seems to me the incredible thing is this game is running on an Atari 2600, not a computer.
Really?
How do you squeeze all of this into that unit?
Well, it takes a lot of time programming, coding. You have to model the universe as you feel it should really be, and then you have to find how you can fit it all in piece by piece. You start off with the basic mission, and then you add features and you add the functions all along the way. When I finished the game, I was not happy with it, and I had an additional list of 146 separate items.
You've got to be really impressed with what these guys managed to do with an Atari 2600. I mean, what did it have? Was it 4K or something? Something ridiculous.
Wanted to put in that I still felt were important. I spent an additional 3 months finishing those off and getting them all in. I wanted this to be absolutely accurate and absolutely complete. And it is.
Put this all inside of how big a ROM?
It's an 8K cartridge.
8K cartridge. That's an incredible amount of...
It took 13 months of programming, and a lot of that time was spent putting it all together. Now, we've just achieved orbit. There's the Earth's rim rolling underneath. The external tank will jettison. There it goes. And we've docked with an orbiting satellite, which actually was themed after the Skylab. In fact, Dr. Ed Gibson did a review on the game, and he noted that it looked like you were trying to fly into his old nemesis in space. And then we do our deorbit, and we come in for a landing at Edwards Air Force Base.
Now, one thing unique you did in adapting this game to the 2600 is using the switches in the 2600 as functional switches. How did you do that?
Yeah, what we had to do was I had to throw out all the old ideas of what this machine would do. This was originally a video game concept.
No, it is running on a 2600, Colin. There is a 800, but obviously this one's on the...
So I said, look, all these switches are controlled by the computer. I'm going to redefine them to be computer switches. I'm going to control the main engines, the backup engines, the cargo bay doors, the landing gear, the sequence of information on the screen. It became so different that we had to develop an overlay to fit over the screen. We had to develop what's called a cheat sheet, which is just what the astronauts use. This gives you all the instructions that are necessary to fly your shuttle. And the instruction book is 30 pages long. And it gives you a lot of detail into exactly how to fly the space shuttle. And basically, it's a small flight manual. We provide a glossary.
Pretty cool.
We provide drawings of the space shuttle, engine indicators. Here's a side view of the space shuttle that we provide. So really, you understand all about the space shuttle in order to fly this game accurately.
You get a little pilot's license when you get through this?
If you fly successfully, you receive a patch. And if you fly just as an astronaut would, you might get your wings. We're entering the Earth's atmosphere now, and you see we're getting the ionization
really
cone
cool.
that appears around the space shuttle. If you saw the movie The Right Stuff, you would see in the sequence with John Glenn, this is what the astronauts see in the window. This is hot ionized gas being superheated by the friction of the shuttle on the way in. We've even lost our signals. We've lost our altitude and speed information, and we've lost our computer screens.
Steve, it seems piloting the space shuttle is very difficult to do, one would think. Can a kid or a normal person actually pull this off?
That is so
Well,
cool.
what I did when I designed this was I understood that problem. Having the average individual fly the space shuttle would take years of work. But I looked at how NASA trains its astronauts, and they start off, first of all, by giving them a lot of book exercises. They give them film strips of what it's like to fly the space shuttle. This is flight number 1. You're seeing essentially a film strip. You can pick up the joystick and take control at any time you want to, but you don't have to. There's a second flight called a training flight, and that basically is like flying in a simulator. You can make mistakes, you can make errors, and the computer will compensate, and it will let you know. And then Flight 3 is the actual real thing. So you work your way up to flying the actual mission. You can get into it very easily, and then work your way up and finally try to achieve your wings.
The interesting thing about this game, I think, is that it's an educational learning experience as well as
vicariously educational.
Right.
You're not sitting there playing flashcards. You're learning about one of the most technologically advanced items
You've
today.
got
Oh, there are the dual sonic
trace of
booms
the
that
guy's
occur. The first one was the space shuttle. The second one was the chase planes. And we're coming in now at Edwards Air Force Base.
what he's written.
When you get done mastering this game, you've effectively learned all about what an astronaut does when he's in orbit. So the next time you see a launch go off, you're going to know what he has to do, when he has to do it, what he goes through.
It's incredible. We need another minute or so before we land here. While we're waiting, Chris, let's talk about, your new game is called Excalibur. What is that about?
Excalibur is a game of leadership. The concept, I wanted to express to people the ideas behind von Clausewitz's statement.
He's got the voice of a 14-year-old and the haircut of a 46-year-old.
That is, I was a little tired of war games that glorify war. So I wanted to show that war is something that sometimes cannot be avoided, but must never be entered into in a cavalier manner. And so really I was trying to teach concepts of leadership. And so in the game Excalibur, I make you as King Arthur. I give you the task of unifying Britain. Now, unification is entirely different from conquest. That is, you have to convince people of your authority.
That's the thing about all these really, really old games. They put, because the graphics and the sound are so basic, they pad it out with like a fantastic user manual, and I mean, listen to that other guy talking about the space shuttle one. It's just fantastic, and that's what we miss now. I miss these days, definitely.
You have to convince them to follow you, and that involves more than merely brute force.
Chris, we have a little bit of time left. Can you get Excalibur up on the screen and show us just a piece of that?
This is the title scene to Excalibur, and it's does nothing more than give the title and set a tone and show off who did it.
Mm-hmm. And this was designed to run on the Atari 800, or?
Yes, I've cut it off. This was designed for the 800 with 48K and a disk drive. It's a huge game. It actually won't fit on the 800. It requires disk swapping. And so you bring in whole chunks of game at a time. It's actually 66K of object code. Very, very large game, all written in assembly language.
Okay, well, if you've played Raster Blaster or messed around with Pinball Construction Set, you've been manipulated by the mind of Bill Budge, one of the premier game designers. We'll meet Bill and the president of Electronic Arts in just a moment. Joining us now is game designer Bill Budge, who works with Electronic Arts, and the president of Electronic Arts, Trip Hawkins.
Bill, there's quite an array of games out here on the table. And what is it that makes a game successful, or what kind of factors go into the design of a game?
It's really hard to, you can't ask people what they want to see on the computer and what kind of programs they want. I really think that a person writing a program has to have an inner conviction of something and write a program that they want
yeah,
to
that's
write.
the problem with modern gaming there, Sandra. Eh?
When I started writing this program, it was something I really wanted to do. I wanted to see it work.
And where'd you get the idea for?
I always liked building things, and it was a funny interact kind of process. I got tired of writing video games. I was really sick of playing them by this time. And I thought, well, it's fun to make video games. I still kind of like to write them, and I bet other people would really like to write them.
You're talking about the Pinball Construction Set.
Right.
And this is kind of a nice game because it actually involves you in the construction of the game itself. It's kind of like a metagame. But is the success of that been pretty good in the sense that, is there a special segment that you're selling to as far as the construction set?
Well, when you start out, yeah, you're looking to the really avant-garde computer users. It takes a while for the message to get out there when everyone is still discovering Pac-Man and a program comes along that's telling them they can build video games. Well, it doesn't register at first, but it's got a slow growth that builds up, and finally now we're getting very good results. The game kind of craze dies out. This stuff's taken off.
Mm-hmm. Trip, on the business side, what do you look for a successful software game?
Well, I think Pinball Construction Set has a lot of the things that you look for, and that's why it's now one of the top 10 sellers in the country, according to Billboard magazine. We have a philosophy of having products that are simple, hot, and deep, simple so that you don't have to read a lot of instructions. Of course, most people don't want to have to learn how to operate the computer. They want to just do things with it right away. And Pinball Construction Set, you can immediately play one of the pinball games that are included, or you can quickly make up one of your own, and it's very simple to do that, as I think Bill will illustrate. We also like to have products that are hot, in that they should fully use the sound and graphics and other capabilities of the machine. And we also look for programs that are deep. In the case of Pinball Construction Set, you can make your own pinball games, so it has a lot of creative possibilities and allows people to control what they're going to make and interact with it and change it. And that's one of the things that extends the life of the product and causes people to come back to it again and again.
Bill, it's kind of fun to take a look at this.
I'm dying. Dying to say. Go ahead, Bill.
Okay, well, this is a very simple sort of real-world idea. It's a construction set. You have something that you're building on this side of the screen and a set of parts over here. And I have a hand here that I control with the joystick, and I use that to move things around, say, on the board, the game I'm building. I can modify this game. And I can get parts out of the box, and I can just add them over.
So they're kind of bumpers you're putting into your game?
I'm just putting bumpers, yeah. This is a favorite of really young kids. They like to just grab a whole bunch of bumpers, fill the board up with them, and put a ball on there. A pinball aficionado would gasp, but little kids don't really build pinball machines. They just sort of build things with this. And I can get a ball and put that over here. Then if I want to try out the game, I can just push this menu selection right here, and the game starts to play. Now, you can see I've got two balls, one up there. I can launch this one, and I can go out and play the game a little bit, and the balls drop down at the bottom eventually. But before I let that happen, I'll just go back to the parts box and start editing again, get rid of some of these.
Bill, this was kind of a new level, I suppose, of computer game where you really can design the game yourself. What, if you can tell us, what are you working on now? What would be the next step in computer games?
I want to extend the idea of a construction set. I think this one was hard to do when I started, and because there are lots of combinations and things you can't really predict when you're making a kit to make a meta game, as you said. I'd like to extend the idea even further, and the problem there is then designing the parts box. In pinball, it's a small set of parts. You don't really have to worry about thinking up abstractions. In a general construction set, it's not clear what the parts should be. It's almost like you're inventing a new language for representing specifications for programs. It gets very difficult computer science problems.
Trip, at the arcade level, we hear that maybe, games sort of peaked and people aren't quite as interested. Are computer games here to stay, or is it a fad?
I think computer games are fundamentally different from video games, mainly because computer technology in the home can be extended and become a much broader base of technology. Just as an example, all of these programs that we're talking about here, they come on floppy disks, and each one of these holds much more memory than can be held in the memory of a coin-operated arcade game. And it really is, it becomes a question of the program size when you finally want to know how good a program can I have and how much can I do with it and how long will it take before I'm bored with it or I've exhausted the educational value. And I can get, something like 3 or 4 times more program on here than I can fit into the memory of a coin-operated game.
Okay, you've got one-on-one there. Maybe we can get it loaded. Well, I think, Gary, you had a question.
I loved one-on-one.
Well, the only thing I was going to mention is it seems like the games have gone from relatively unsophisticated games to something that requires a lot of sophistication in terms of programming, and the memory size is really an important thing, important aspect of that.
Yeah,
sorry to really put that back into 8K.
Has that been the difference, really, in the early computer games? Pretty limited now. The incredible graphics and speed. Has it really been a function of
before
memory?
All the franchise shite came along.
Programmers getting better, I think. Not many people wrote video games 5 years ago. There was a small selection. Now there are thousands of people who are capable of writing a good video game. And a few people have upped the ante, so it's not enough maybe to write a video game. You have to write a video game plus a game editor. I think the more popular games really have these extra features built in.
Can we get one-on-one in there? That's a kind of exciting demonstration of what you can do. And I think, Trip, you're going to take on either Dr. J or Larry Bird here. Tell us about one-on-one.
Well, the basic idea of one-on-one was to get these two guys, Julie Serving and Larry Bird, who are probably the 2 best-known basketball players and probably the 2 best forwards that have ever played the game, and to capture their personalities in the game. And so we decided to hire them to help us design the game, and we had photo sessions where we took pictures of them in action. In fact, we had a camera mounted at mid-court just exactly from this angle while we photographed them. And then we worked with them on prototypes of the product where we'd sit down and talk to them about the moves that they would use and some of the strategies and the shooting percentages that they would have in different places on the court. And that was a fascinating learning experience.
But you say programmed in the personality. I mean, these characters play like Larry Bird would.
Very much so. In fact, why don't I go ahead and get started?
Yeah.
Right now they're playing against one another in a demonstration game, but if I press the button on my joystick, it'll take me to a menu, and I can quickly make a selection. I want to play against the computer. I'm going to allow the computer to play Larry Bird, and I'm going to play at the varsity level. There are different levels depending on how good a player I am. And now I go ahead and start the game. And that's Larry Bird taking an outside shot, and he hit it. Now, Bird is particularly effective at outside shots. But watch Julius now. I'm going to be able to drive around him, I hope. Whoops, he stole the ball from me.
You're Larry Bird now.
No, I'm Dr. J.
You're
and
Dr.
unfortunately,
J,
I let Bird steal the ball.
Larry, okay.
He's trying to work his way into the basket. So he's got a quick 4-0 lead over me. Oh, now I have to have the indignation of seeing an instant replay.
That's great. Well, where do you think, Trip, the software games are going to next? I mean, what's the next generation of this kind of stuff? I hate to interrupt you. Trying to get back on.
I had to have a slam dunk there. Sorry.
Yeah, what's happening next? I mean, what's the next tier, the next level of computer games?
At a really simplistic level,
Maybe you could turn
it's
that
very
level
easy
down.
it's very easy to extend the realism and the graphics that are in the current products. And I think it's also, you're going to increasingly see more creative possibilities for the player, which is I think where a lot of the educational value comes from. Being able to create your own pinball game is one example. We've extended that with Music Construction Set to a product that is about music, and of course there are a lot of people that are really interested in music and interested in having their children learn about music, and it uses a lot of the ideas that Bill pioneered with the Pinball Construction Set. And I think that the area where the greatest challenges will come is in looking for original ideas and new creative ways to break the mold. I mean, a lot of people look at what other people have done and try to do something that's a spin-off from that, but the really creative geniuses in the industry are capable of coming up with something completely new.
Do they just come to you, they say, we've got an idea and here's a program I've written, and then you turn around and sell it?
It happens all different ways. We have one of our better products, it's called Hard Hat Mac, and 2 high school boys came into our office one day and they had 3 sheets of high school notebook paper they'd drawn up in their physics class, and we signed a contract based on that.
Gentlemen, we're out of time. Bill, Trip, thanks so much. Thank you for joining us in this edition of the Computer Chronicles.
Well, according to that, there's 6 minutes left, so I don't know what's coming up. Every Sunday was really unusual.
Microfocus, creators of visual programming tools for software development, is pleased to provide major funding for the Computer Chronicles, the story of this continuing evolution.
Hard Hat Mac.
Random Access
really
is
good.
made possible by a grant from Popular Computing, a McGraw-Hill magazine. In the Random Access file, Hewlett-Packard has made another major move into the personal computer field with a new portable printer designed for the PC market. It is a non-impact inkjet printer with low noise operation, battery-powered, 150 characters per second, and an 11 by 12 character matrix. The price is under $500, and it will be available next month. IBM in the news again this week. First of all, IBM announced a licensing agreement with Intel to allow IBM to produce its own 8088 chips, the microprocessor used in the PC. Tremendous demand on Intel's output of the 8088 has kept IBM from producing enough PCs to meet its demand. Perhaps more important, though, is the fact that Intel apparently also gave IBM the right to make its own 8286 chips, a much more advanced microprocessor, which analysts believe IBM will use in its new personal computer, codenamed Popcorn. With the ability to turn out the chips, it is thought that IBM may now be able to introduce the popcorn this summer. The use of the advanced microprocessor will enable popcorn to do sophisticated graphics and other complex integrated functions. Sounds like popcorn may take on the Macintosh Lisa crowd. Victor Technologies, the high-flying hardware computer company which took a nosedive this year, may be bought out by the British firm Applied Computer Technologies. The would-be buyer indicated it might close down the Silicon Valley factory and move operations to Scotland.
Hey.
Also on the ailing list, Tandon Corporation, the nation's largest maker of disk drives, says it will lay off about 1,000 employees and transfer most of its manufacturing overseas to cut production costs. In fact, countries all over the world are dropping in on the Silicon Valley trying to get a piece of the high-tech action. In the last year, 20 different countries have sent delegations to the Silicon Valley in an effort to lure their business abroad. The countries offer incentives such as government subsidies and attractive tax packages. The most successful recruiter by far has been Ireland. One foreign country very much on the mind of high-tech executives is Japan, with particular attention focused now on the debate in the Japanese parliament on a new proposed software bill which would limit software copyright protection for U.S. products to 15 years and force American companies to allow Japanese firms to sell U.S.-made software. The net result would be little protection for American manufacturers, with Japanese companies able to sell the same software at a lower price by avoiding the high research and development cost. And speaking of software, you say you have a modem but can't use all the bells and whistles because you don't have the right communication software? Listen to Paul Schindler.
Okay, it's all set. 3 men in a monkey suit. Listen, I'm going to have to get back to you later. Bye-bye. Communications. Did you know that using one of these devices, called modems, computers can talk on the phone, just like us, only faster? But if you already have PC communications, you might be surprised to hear that you're in a minority. Fewer than 1/4 of PCs communicate. So many of you are waiting to make the plunge. Perhaps the hundreds of communications packages on the market have daunted you. Well, the whole Earth Software Catalog and Review has sorted communications out for beginners. Now, if your computer runs the CP/M operating system, we suggest you consider MITE, or Modem 7. For users of the IBM PC, the best packages are SmartCom 2 and Crosstalk 16. PC Talk 3 is more limited, but then at $35, it's also the cheapest communications package. Apple computer users may want TSC Terminal if they use 40-column screens, or Data Capture 2 for 80 columns. Commodore and Radio Shack users will find CompuServe's VidTex a best buy. Now, there simply isn't time to get into all the wonderful things you can do once you have communications, but believe me, a PC on the phone opens up new worlds. Just ask someone who already has a modem. Call them, or call their computer. For Random Access, I'm Paul Schindler.
Next week, Paul takes a look at Ken Houston's professional blackjack program. Well, the hot software this month, tax preparation programs. Two of the more than 20 tax packages have hit the software top 10 this week. The two bestsellers are Tax Advantage from Continental Software. It sells for about $70. And Tax Prepare from Howard Soft. It's a bit more complex and sells for $250. And as if you hadn't noticed, there are still more computer magazines coming out on the market. The latest count shows more than 300 computer periodicals. The fastest growing ones are Compute, Personal Computing, Popular Computing, and InfoWorld. Finally, the last place you want to see a computer, let alone a robot, is in your neighborhood bar. Yet it seems the sweep of technology has no limits. In San Francisco this week, the world's first robot bartender was unveiled. The robot can talk, can take spoken orders, and can mix 200 different drinks. But on the first test run, when the waitress yelled out, "Give me a Bloody Mary and a beer," the robot knocked a glass off the bar and onto the floor and poured beer all over the counter. The robot's designer said there were still some bugs to be worked out. Kind of makes a human feel good. That's it for this week's Random Access File. I'm Stuart Chaffee. Random Access is made possible by a grant from Popular Computing, a McGraw-Hill magazine.
Fantastic. Right, there we go. Do you want another one? I was going to watch two of these. The second one is going to be the same thing, but it's going to be I think that was episode 1. So let's tee up the next one. Hang on, I'll just get it started. Not PC screen, we want to go to video. And I want to change this. And it's this one, I think. Is that playing? Oh, it's playing, I think, yeah.
Video games have come on hard times these days with closeout sales, discount prices just about everywhere.
My name's Frank
But what about
Buffet.
computer games? Well, as computers have gotten better, computer games have gotten better too, with vastly improved graphics, much more sophisticated text handling, and much greater speed. We'll take a look at some of the newest and hottest computer games next on the Computer Chronicles.
This is like the kind of program that you would have got at school when you got put into a room and then they'd wheel out the TV on a stand.
The Computer Chronicles is brought to you in part by McGraw-Hill, publishers of Popular Computing, the magazine that gives readers an understanding of the technology and applications of microcomputers and software in office, home, and classroom.
My name's Frank Buffet.
Welcome to the Computer Chronicles.
Steve.
I'm Stuart Chaffee. This is Gary Kildall. And the subject,
Stuart
obviously, is
Chaffee.
games, Gary. And I bet you've seen some pretty swift computer chess games before, but I want to show you this one. This game not only has good computer logic in it, but as you can see, it moves the pieces all by itself.
It's bloody
It can even
cool.
play both sides if it wants to, all by itself. Computer games kind of drove the early personal computer revolution, and some people are saying that computer games as a part of the market is kind of dying now. Do you think that's the case?
Well, it looks from this game that the game player is a dying breed, but
They don't need us, do they?
Don't even need to be here to play it. But no, Stuart, I think what's happened is the market has settled down to a group of dedicated game players, and those game players expect fairly sophisticated video games.
Well, we're going to see some pretty sophisticated games. We're going to meet the premier chess programmer, Kathy Sprecklin of Sargon. We'll meet one of the hottest new games, Millionaire. We'll go into the mysteries of the new adventure games. And you know, the graphics demands of new computer games are so great that programmers are now turning to the animators who used to work for Disney. We have a report.
The art of animation grew up alongside the early motion picture industry. Based on storyboards, character development, and a detailed script, it was a repetitive and time-consuming process. But today, much of the task can be computer-assisted, and that has great potential for the computer game field. This game designer can dream up a character, give him a personality, lifelike moves, and quickly bring his paper sketches to life on the screen. With a light pen, an artist can adjust each pixel on the screen to give his character the most fluid movements. All of the elements of the game, from action to background, can be drawn on a graphics pad, tested, and changed instantly. To create an explosion, the animator first determines the shape and the size of the blast, and then builds a sequence. After checking the result, he can place it precisely within the scene. But in spite of electronic aids, the present-day game designer is still faced with a monumental challenge: to transfer the personality of an invented character from the full-size drawing pad to the tiny pixels on a video screen. To accomplish this takes finesse and detail. For example, when the hero is introduced, his movements are quick and bold. But when faced with adversity, his mood reflects it, and he slinks away with slumping shoulders. To most players, this may not seem like a major step forward, but it closely resembles the methods used to make traditional animation lifelike. The more plastic and fluid the movement, the more realistic the action. How much of this realism can be transferred to the electronic game board remains to be seen.
I'd like to introduce you now to Kathy Sprecklin, the writer of Sargon, and Jim Zuber of Blue Chip Software, creators of the Millionaire.
One of them has got a normal surname.
Kathy, you know, one of the amazing things about chess games is it seems like it was 15 or 20 years ago that chess programming on a big computer system was a major research topic. And then one day I walked into Macy's and saw a little chess program and a tiny little board. What happened to cause that to take place anyway?
Obviously, the microcomputer revolution, the existence of a single-chip computer. I guess it's
she's
like
on her
a
mid-20s.
new mountain sprung up in the world. All the mountain climbers would rush to it. there's a new processor out there. You've got to see what it's capable of doing.
But it seems like there's a lot of work or a lot of programming would have to go into just the strategies that would take place inside of a chess game. What is the basic way that you construct a chess program?
Okay, yes, there is a lot of work that goes on to it. What you have to do, like any big project, you have to break it down into manageable steps. And we divide it up into move generation. How do you get the machine to understand what is a pawn move, what is a queen move? Then you have to have evaluation. Now that you can make moves, which moves are good moves, which moves are bad moves. And once that gets you into the whole concept of search, look ahead, which is another whole topic. How can you make it as fast as possible so you can see as far ahead as possible? And then there's another whole realm which has to do with graphics displays and user features, and how do you let the human being get into the program as much as possible.
Okay, and in the case of the Mac, now you've got a very graphical interface, obviously. Was that quite a change in the...
Oh, it was, but it was delightful. You know, it was like presenting a kid with a mountainous ice cream sundae. It was everything you ever wanted in a computer.
She's got a really young face, probably because she's really young.
Well, show us how you used the Mac, in fact, to augment Sargon.
Okay. Well, the first thing, the most obvious thing, is how do you make your moves in the computer? When we were dealing with older generation machines, you had to type in coordinates that represented the squares of the board, like E2, E4 for a pawn move. Now you simply take this little cursor that looks like a crosshair, position it over the piece that you want to move, press, let it go where you want to move it. And Sargon responds by flashing his move.
And it actually does record the coded move.
Yes, if you still want to see the move list, you can get it recorded there. If you like, you can print it. There's a file. You can print the move list if you want to do that. All of the features that are... I didn't mean to do that.
Well, it certainly makes it a lot simpler to use and a lot easier to see what's going on in the other games.
All the features you can get at just with the press of a mouse button.
What was it I played again?
Aside from naming your game,
C64.
that's the only time you'd ever need to touch the keyboard.
How does a game like this fare in terms of playing a good chess player? Does it do well?
It beats the majority of tournament chess players, and it just absolutely the vast majority of casual chess players. A world champion would have no difficulty beating it whatsoever. A chess master could probably play it 100 games in a row, and it might surprise it and win one game or something. That the master might win all 100.
Can you win the game pretty well because you know all the corners?
I have to set it on its lowest level. You can set levels based on time. If I put it on 5 seconds move, and if I select this little thing called easy play, then I can beat it.
Kathy, you went from Sargon to Sargon 2 to Sargon 3. What were the improvements? How is it a better chess game now?
Each edition of Sargon involved a total rewrite of the chess playing algorithm. Each version of the program had approximately a ×10 or better speed improvement, which translates directly to a play enhancement. The big thing that a user of Sargon 2 would notice compared to Sargon 3, Sargon 2 played a fine game of chess if you were patient. If you were willing to wait 2 or 3 minutes a move, you got a fine game of chess. Sargon 3 gives you that same game of chess at 5 or 10 seconds a move.
And I understand that this is a husband-wife team?
That's right.
As far as the programming is concerned. That's great.
Jim, I want to get you in here, and you're not the husband. But you've got Millionaire, which also is especially tailored to take advantage of some of the Mac features. So introduce us to Millionaire.
Well, basically, Millionaire is a stock market simulation, and as I was mentioning before we went on, the way I got into this was I'd made a few $1,000s doing some consulting work and invested it in stock options, and over the course of a year had a great time, learned an awful lot about stock options, and also lost half the money. Just about that time, the IBM personal computer was coming on the market, and there was great speculation over the kind of person that would buy that computer, an upwardsly mobile person very concerned about their own personal well-being and their personal net worth, and I decided that, gee, why don't I take the experiences that I just learned in the stock market and apply it to a computer game that kind of specifically tailored to the kind of individual that would buy the IBM personal computer.
Tell us how, in using Mac, you were able to make Millionaire such an effective game.
Okay. Basically, the original version of Millionaire on the IBM was structured in a kind of a hierarchy of menus, which is a pretty traditional way to write a computer program. And unfortunately, in the real world, when you want to invest in the stock market, you want to look at all kinds of information at the same time. And about 6 months before the Mac came out, Apple came to us and said, gee, we'd like to make sure that Millionaire is available on the Macintosh, and we were very excited about it. And as a coincidence, 2 days after Apple came to us, I got a call from a programmer that had spent the past year programming the Macintosh for Pete Marwick Mitchell. So suddenly, 2 days, we had a programmer with a year's experience and a product, and we were ready to go.
Okay, show us how you'd play this here.
First thing we're going to do is we're going to bring up a save game, and in about 10 seconds you'll see the central screen of Millionaire. Basically, you can invest in 15 stocks in 5 industry groups, and everything you can do in the real world, you can do in Millionaire.
Does this make you a better investor, too?
It will not make you rich. We bang away at that time and time again. The feedback we get from our customers is they say, my gosh, the stupid mistakes that I didn't make because I played your game first. Millionaire provides you with that fundamental knowledge that gives you the courage to go out and invest.
Okay, Jim, just a little time left. We have the basic screen up here. Show us how you play.
We have the basic screen up here. Basically, here's how you'd play a game of Millionaire. I'd say, gee, let's buy some Dow Jones stock. I'd click on Dow. We'd come over here, get a description of Dow Jones. Learn a little bit about the history of the company. Gee, what's it all about? Next thing we do.
And this is based on fact, all this.
Based on fact. We'd come and take a look at how the stock market in general is performing. Stock market looks like it's going up. We take a look at how the heavy industry group's doing. Seems to be going up. Let's take a look at Dow Chemical. Dow's going up. Let's go ahead and buy a little bit of Dow Chemical. Slip the keyboard over here. Well, let's go ahead and buy 3,000 shares of Dow Chemical. And as you'll notice, we'll get a transaction report just like you'd get from your broker, commission, and the whole works. Now we're going to move over, and we're going to clean up the desktop a little bit, as soon as the computer will allow me to do that. Now, what we're going to do next is we're going to move ahead a week, and we're going to see, gee, what happens when we move ahead a week to the price of our stock? Before we do that...
How'd you do in the first week?
How do we do in the first week? And this is the beauty of Millionaire. What I can do is I can bring down my stock portfolio. I can shrink it up a little bit. Okay. I can bring down a graph of the stock price. Let's get the graph. And I can scroll the graph.
Is that in the Apple
horizontal scrolling? We can shrink it up something like this. How about that? We'll move it over here. Now we'll bring down news reports. The game actually has newspaper reports from the Wall Street Journal and Barron's. And as you go forward each week, you'll see news reports.
This really shows the power of the graphical interface.
The Macintosh is a very, very powerful computer. Now what we'll do...
I'm going to have to interrupt you, because we don't have time to see the rest of it. As tempting as all that is. Actually, some of the hot games this year are, of course, the adventure games, and we're going to take a look at 2 of the most impressive adventure games in just a moment.
Hey!
Joining us now is David Crane, a software designer, one of the original founders of Activision, writer of Pitfall and now Ghostbusters, and also David Lebling, a game designer with Infocom and a co-author of the Zork series. Now, before we get to play Zork and take a look at Ghostbusters, the program, you're probably familiar with other movies like Star Wars and Raiders, which had spectacular special effects. Well, some of that same technology is being adapted now for computer games by director George Lucas. Wendy Woods has a report.
Welcome to Lucasfilm. For the sake of security, we can't tell you exactly where we are, but I can tell you that this is where programmers have virtually free hands in employing state-of-the-art technology in video game design. Rescue on Fractalus is one of the first 2 games from the movie company. The player sees his or her point of view and a world where space, form, mass, and velocity are true to life. This is accomplished in part by use of a geometrical formula called the fractal.
What the fractals do is it takes the altitude at various points on the terrain, and then it uses a repeatable technique for randomly generating the cragginess or rocky edges that connect these points of altitude.
Artist Gary Winnick designed the amusing and surprising creatures in the game. Ballblazer is a kind of space-age hockey with 2 players' points of view. You'll notice the edges on the playing field diagonals are smooth. That's called anti-aliasing, or blending 5 different colors at certain grid points. Lucasfilm designers took a year to complete both these games.
We didn't have a marketing organization breathing down our necks saying, you have to get this done in 3 weeks or something. And rather than worrying about that part, we're just told, do the best you can do something which is new, which really pushes the art of video games, video technology, as far as you can make it.
The designer's next games will be for the newest low-end computers. You can be sure the entire industry will be watching. For the Computer Chronicles, I'm Wendy Woods.
Well, Stuart, before we get into another movie here, Ghostbusters, it looks real interesting. I'm anxious to see what this looks like. I'd like to talk, David, a little bit about adventure games. And what is an adventure game and what makes it so interesting for people? It's in a world right now where we're going to graphics a lot. It seems to be based in words. And what is it?
Well, the wonderful thing about an adventure game that's based on words, of course, is that your brain probably can do a much better job of creating the pictures than the computer can with today's technology. And so our games are all text. You interact with the computer in words, and the computer spits words back out at you. And so there are no pictures at all, except the ones in your head, which are the best.
Now, these are the kind of games that well, mostly, I guess, kids play with, and they go through different branching schemes, and every point you get a chance to go north, south, east, and west, and so forth. Are these games getting more sophisticated now? Who's writing them? Are they being written by authors, or what?
They're definitely getting more sophisticated, and I wouldn't even say that they're mostly played by children anymore. We have people from ages 8 on up. As soon as you can understand the words, you can play it, and it doesn't necessarily fade with age. A lot of adults enjoy them quite a bit. And I guess what I'd say about the idea of branching is that it's more than just branching, because it would be a very, very fuzzy branching thing if it was a branch. It's got directions, it's got verbs, and the verbs can be very complicated. You can say things like things with direct objects and indirect objects. You can talk to other characters. You can ask fairly complicated questions like, where were you on the night of the murder? And so it's more than just a simple branching scheme. It's a really fairly complicated computer program.
Now, David, to confirm what you said about age, by the way, I'm a great Zork fan and into all your other stuff, unfortunately. But I remember playing the old Scott Adams adventure game, you know, Go North, you know, Drop Box, you know, and it's come such a long way now to the Zork type things and what's come after that. What has allowed that difference? I mean, how did it get so much better?
Well, one reason it got better, I think, is that Infocom, at least, has an extremely good development system and an extremely good parser built into the program. And the parser can understand very complex sentences. And the more complex the sentence you can understand, the more complicated and more exciting the action in the game can be.
Okay, David Crane, let's turn to the other side now of games here, from an adventure game with no graphics to your kind of thing, which is loaded with graphics. First of all, of course, you were most well known for Pitfall, I guess, which was a video game cartridge type thing primarily. Do you think computer games are kind of going to go the way of video games, or is this a different animal that interest in them won't die?
Well, there are going to be several different classifications of games going forward, such as adventure games, there are strategy games, action games, arcade games. One of the most difficult aspects of the industry right now is categorizing games, because everything crosses into other categories. Ghostbusters, as a computer game, is an action game, but unlike action games in the past, which took place on one screen, one pretty picture, there are so many different aspects to the game. In this game, you're starting a franchise with bank money and several different screens where you plot courses through the city streets, and you drive through the city streets, and once you get there, you have to catch the ghosts. If you miss, they can slime you. It's on and on and on.
Can we see and hear some of Ghostbusters?
Okay. Well, to begin with, the game begins with a screen which has no playability. It's a title page, and if you watch for a little bit, we'll find a little bouncing ball comes along the screen, and you can sing along with the game. If you don't feel like singing along, or if you don't have a crowd in your living room to yell Ghostbusters at the appropriate time, the machine will do that for you. Okay.
When you hit the space bar.
When you hit the space bar.
Is that
I understand it took you as long to write this opening frame as the rest of the game.
Well, I think it is.
No, that's not really true. it's something that I wanted to have in the game, and I didn't do it until the last week, actually, of the project, because it's more important to me that the game plays correctly and that all the details are in it. But something like this is an added feature that I like to provide to the consumer.
Nice attraction.
Now, David, let me ask you, computer games have been very innovative in the Zork-type things and Pitfall. Computer games have kind of led the way. Does it concern you that we're now kind of repackaging movies? I mean, has the game business now gotten to the movie business and the pop music business?
Not in my opinion. It's been attempted many times before to make games out of movies and any kind of merchandising you can name. In fact, this game began before the movie Ghostbusters as a game of, in a very similar fashion, of driving through the city streets, doing something once you get to the building, etc. But it was a game which was looking for a theme at the time. And when Activision and Columbia Pictures got together, I saw this as an opportunity to lend a theme to a game. But it's a game that people have told me they would enjoy playing whether there was a Ghostbusters name on it or not. Right? So
you're just kind of attracted because of the connection. Can we go a little bit further with it and see what...
You want to play this? I can tell.
Okay.
They didn't want to play Zork, did they?
What are we doing?
Well, I have just told it that I don't have an account number. If I had an account number, I could start with the same amount of money I ended the game with last time, which is a nice feature, allows you to build upon your account. But once I have bought my Ghostbusters franchise with bank money, I'm going to have some equipment to work with. So I buy a car and begin to equip it with my little forklift.
This comes out of your capital.
Okay.
That's much more interesting than Zork.
You know, a ghost vacuum. These are basically comic items because the game was a comedy. But you do have to have this equipment to play the game. Now, once I have a fully equipped car, I look at the city map screen. I have Ghostbusters headquarters right below me and the Temple of Zool in the middle of the screen. But I see a flashing block which says there's a ghost to catch. Right? We've got a job to do here. Now, I'm able to drive.
Custom-made movie, right?
I'm able to drive through the city streets. This will come in handy later as I suck up roaming ghosts in my ghost vacuum. But here's my Slimer. So I must set down a trap, take one man and point his streamer, another man here. When the ghost is between the streams, I'll catch him.
You got him.
Got him. Okay. Energize the trap. My men jump up and down for joy, and the crowd yells.
Okay, that's great. We have just a little bit of time left. David Lebling, briefly, what do you see as the next challenge in adventure games?
I did go right to the end.
You can turn the sound down, Dave.
I think the next challenge is probably more sophistication.
He's looking pissed
Moving
off.
away from the straight puzzle solving, you know, you have to get this there, you have to do that, and into something that is a little more sophisticated, something that can do a real plot of a real novel. What we have now is sort of a short story kind of a form, and more sophistication will come as we have more sophisticated parsers and programs to do it with.
Well,
He's trying hard to sell Little Takes Adventure.
Certainly playing Ghostbusters. Now, computer games, and I guess adventure games in particular, are not only a computer phenomenon, they're almost a social phenomenon. Our commentator, Paul Schindler, has some thoughts on that.
I'm playing Candyland with my daughter. It's a good game for improving her color identification and her verbal skills. It's a nice way to while away the time, and I'm using it to teach her not to cheat. How many computer games can make statements like that? Now, listen, I know computer games have the good side. I've reviewed some in the software segment, and I'm going to review more in the future. But in today's commentary, I want to ask you to consider the social effects of replacing other kinds of games with computer games. Now, let me give you an example. I cover conventions in Las Vegas a couple of times a year, and I play blackjack when I'm there. You can play it with a computer, or you can play it with people. Now, not surprisingly, I prefer to play it with people. You get more interaction, you learn more about the game. It's going to be a long time before computers can offer us that kind of interaction.
It does, actually.
Well, you may say, board games don't offer as much interaction as playing, and that's true. But before we take the next step to even less interaction with computer games, I just think we ought to consider what we're doing. Because you're going to lose more than just a rocket ship on the screen. You're going to lose human interaction. That's my opinion. I'm Paul Schindler.
Random Access File this week, lots of news on the lap portable front. First of all, Grid Systems, known as the Porsche of lap portables, has come up with a whole new line of lap portables starting at about half the price of the original Grid Compass. An interesting aspect of the new Grid lineup is that you can pick the kind of screen you want depending on your interest in readability versus power consumption. The new Grid machines go from traditional hard-to-read LCD screens all the way up to a new plasma display with red characters on a black background. Meanwhile, Ericsson Computers is out with a new plasma display portable. It weighs in, though, at 15 pounds, and K-Pro has introduced its new lap portable. It features a 25-line LCD display, IBM compatibility, and a built-in microfloppy. And tomorrow, Pivot is taking its crack at a readable LCD screen with a portable featuring a kind of backlit LCD display which glows in the dark. One of the problems with the old portables, the luggables, was you could break your back carrying them. Well, the good news is there is now software that analyzes back problems. It's called the Spinal Health Data Program, and it uses an IBM PC to digitize back x-rays into high-resolution color graphics, which supposedly provide better information to the doctor on what's wrong. The computer also compares the profile of the x-ray to a standard normal spinal configuration
you've got
and
2
offers
minutes to
diagnostic
finish,
help.
so you better hurry up.
The idea of a robot with eyes has moved one step farther along with the development of a new line of vision robots from a company called Diffracto. Using solid-state video cameras, strobe lighting, and computerized wraparound lasers, the robots can not only see as well as humans, but can poke their robot eyes into tiny openings, see behind things, and see with a precision and speed impossible for the human eye. One of Diffracto's new seeing eye robots can sort objects at the rate of 10,000 an hour and can spot and reject microscopic imperfections. That much-dreaded phrase, our computer is down, may be a thing of the past. If Tandem Computers has its way, Tandem, makers of so-called no-fault or fully redundant computers, has unveiled a new line of low-cost, fail-safe minis which can run in a normal office environment. The no-fault machines are popular with banks and airlines, where downed computers can be costly, if not disastrous. One disaster you want to avoid is buying the wrong software, so here's Paul again with this week's review.
I was just checking my armband here. You know, we were all looking forward to the reading of the will until we found out there wasn't one. A lot of people don't leave wills, usually because it's too expensive. Many states now allow stationery stores to sell form wills. This looks like a clear opportunity for computerization. At least that's what the San Francisco PC Users Group thought when they distributed free will software. Now, this is an all-text program, and frankly, it isn't terribly sophisticated. On the other hand, it beats the heck out of having to type all this in by yourself. This is as much a review of Free Will's distribution as of the package itself. We got it for $6 through a users group. There's lots of good software at users groups. They, in turn, got it from Headlands Press in Tiburon, California, where the tireless Andrew Flugelman pushes his concept of freeware, software you pay for voluntarily. So users of Free Will who like it sent another $10 to a company called C2 in SoCal, California. This is the opposite of copy protection. Freeware invites you to copy their software. I like that idea. Hats off to the Headlands Press in Tiburon. For the Computer Chronicles, I'm Paul Schindler.
General Motors has announced that the 1986 Buick Riviera will come with a full onboard computer featuring a touch-sensitive CRT display on the dash. The computer will oversee nearly 100 automobile functions. If you're into walking rather than driving, you might be interested in a new company called Amfit, which uses a computerized system to put shoes on your feet. Amfit has a new process for programming its insole cutting machine by placing your foot in a pneumatic pressure bed while 500 little dowels form around your foot and tell the milling machine exactly how to shape your shoes. Finally, is the end of QWERTY at hand. What is QWERTY? The old-fashioned layout of typewriters, and some say, unfortunately, computer keyboards. The QWERTY layout was originally designed to slow down touch typists in the 30s when the fingers could move faster than the keys. But with today's computers, speed of keys is not the issue, so advocates of the Dvorak keyboard, with a more practical layout of the letters, say the time is ripe to bid farewell to QWERTY and say hello, Dvorak. The Dvorak proponents say the new layout speeds up typing and therefore computer input by 50%. But with 30 million QWERTY keyboards out there, the prospects for quick change and quicker typing are dim. That's it for this week's Chronicles. We'll see you next time.
The Computer Chronicles was brought to you in part by McGraw-Hill, publishers of Popular Computing, the magazine that gives readers an understanding of the technology and applications of microcomputers and software in office, home, and classroom.
Yeah, there we go, folks. Right, you've had 2.5 hours of this It's only 9:30. You've still got time to watch something decent. So I hope you enjoyed that tonight. A wee double whammy. I can't remember what was the first thing. Yeah, we listened to Neil Brennan's SID tunes, and then we finished off with 2 episodes of the Computer Chronicles with Stuart Buffon, or whatever his name was. Right, I'm going to get going. I've got 2 dogs to walk. Yeah, have a wonderful rest of the week. Remember, we're already downhill to the weekend. I shall see you later. And as always, folks, thank you very much. And thank you for watching. See you later.